Hola queridos oyentes. Hoy compartimos una historia interesante con ustedes. No olviden suscribirse. Disfruten escuchando. Bob trabajaba como ingeniero para una importante compañía petrolera. A veces lo enviaban en viajes de negocios a diferentes ciudades para trabajar en un nuevo proyecto o mejorar sus habilidades. En uno de sus viajes de negocios, conoció a una hermosa chica llamada Dana. Sucedió un fin de semana cuando Bob decidió ir a cortarse el cabello, y una joven morena con rasgos llamativos y un busto grande vino a atenderlo. ¿Qué tipo de corte deseas?, preguntó ella con la típica pregunta profesional. Solo un pequeño recorte, nada más, murmuró, dándose cuenta de que tenía un gran deseo de invitarla a salir. ¿Cuál es tu nombre?, preguntó mientras la chica le colocaba una capa sobre los hombros. Dana, se presentó. Es un hermoso nombre. Soy Bob. Es un placer ser atendido por una maestra de corte tan bella como tú. Bob se sorprendió mirando sus pechos. Gracias. Es lindo escuchar eso, respondió Dana y encendió la máquina cortadora. Cuando terminó, Bob se miró en el espejo y le gustó mucho el resultado. ¿Quedó bien?, comenzó a pagarle. Dime, Dana, ¿puedo invitarte a cenar? Dana miró su reloj, como recordando su horario, guardó el dinero en su bolsillo y ajustó su silla. ¿Por qué no?, respondió, volviéndose hacia Bob. Él miró sus ojos azules y se dio cuenta de que ya no solo le gustaba Dana, sino que sentía algo más por ella. Eso es genial. Te prometo un buen momento. Luego le pidió a Dana su número de teléfono y acordaron encontrarse en un café económico. La noche de la cita fue bien para ambos. Primero cenaron, luego dieron un paseo por el parque. Bob acompañó a Dana a su casa y la cita terminó con un beso apasionado entre los dos jóvenes. A partir de entonces, comenzaron a salir juntos. Les gustaba el aspecto del otro y también tenían muchos intereses en común. El viaje de negocios de Bob estaba llegando a su fin y decidió pedirle a su novia que se mudara con él. Bueno, no puedo hacerlo de inmediato, contestó Dana. Mis padres están aquí, mi trabajo, mis amigos. No puedo simplemente irme así nomás. ¿Por qué no? Tengo una casa grande, puedes conseguir trabajo allí, no solo como peluquera, tenemos un salón cercano también. Será un lugar mejor. No lo sé, Bob. Es muy rápido. Todavía tengo que pensarlo. Dudó. ¿Qué hay que pensar? Te amo y quiero estar contigo. Puedo ver que tú también lo deseas. La miró fijamente a los ojos. Aunque Dana no tenía prisa, le pidió que esperara al menos una semana más y luego le daría una respuesta definitiva. Bob se resignó al deseo de su amada y regresó solo a casa. De vuelta en la ciudad, se encontró con su viejo amigo Oscar en el bar donde solían reunirse para charlar y tomar una o dos bebidas. Sí, parece que estás muy enamorado de ella, compartió Oscar su impresión. ¿Cuál es tu siguiente movimiento? ¿Sabes qué, amigo? Si ella dice que sí, me voy a casar. Nunca me he sentido así antes. Ninguna de mis exnovias me emocionó como lo hizo Dana. ¿Estás enamorado de ella? Scar golpeó a su amigo en el hombro. Tienes razón. Los amigos seguían sentados en la barra y continuaban discutiendo ciertos detalles de la vida. Pronto se despidieron y Bob tomó un taxi de regreso a su casa. En casa, se tiró en la cama sin desvestirse, había sido un día duro y el bar había pasado factura. Bob estaba empezando a quedarse dormido cuando sonó el teléfono. Estiró la mano perezosamente hacia el auricular. Hola, respondió con voz cansada. Hola, ¿Te desperté? Escuchó una voz familiar. Bob se animó. Oh, no, no. No te preocupes. Ha sido un día ocupado, así que estoy un poco cansado. Pero tu voz me da fuerzas. ¿Cómo estás, cariño? Sabes, he estado pensando en tu propuesta y me gustaría ir a tu casa. Estas palabras hicieron que Bob recobrara el sentido. Estaba dispuesto a besar el auricular con las palabras de su amada. Estoy tan feliz, cariño. Eres un ángel. No te arrepentirás de tu decisión. ¿Debería ir a buscarte? ¿Podría ayudarte con tus cosas? No. Respondió ella. Envíame la dirección exacta y llegaré por mí misma. No tengo muchas cosas, así que no te preocupes. Oh, eso es genial. ¿Cuándo puedo esperarte, cariño? Haré una reserva en el restaurante para celebrar tu llegada. No necesito una mesa. Simplemente estaremos en tu casa. No puedo esperar para abrazarte. Como prefieras, mi amor. Entonces simplemente pediré el sushi que tanto te gusta. Oh, eso es genial. Estaré allí pasado mañana. Solo tengo una cosa más que hacer aquí y estaré allí. Dana cortó la comunicación. Bob se dejó caer en la cama, desbordando de alegría, soñando con el encuentro. Mientras tanto, Dana, después de terminar de hablar por teléfono con Bob, estaba sentada medio desnuda en la cama, con un joven de constitución robusta acariciándole los hombros también sin camisa. ¿Cómo te va?, le preguntó él al oído. Ella se volvió para mirarlo. Sí, todo está bien. Muy bien, respondió y lo besó. El encuentro entre Bob y Dana fue perfecto a su parecer. Él ordenó sushi, como prometió, y se acomodaron en el suelo junto a la chimenea sobre una suave y esponjosa alfombra, mimándose mutuamente por un rato, alimentándose con deliciosa comida. Luego, Dana fue a tomar un baño, aduciendo fatiga, y al final de la velada, Bob le dio un suave masaje en la espalda, tratando de darle a su amada la mayor cantidad de placer posible. El tiempo pasó. La relación entre Dana y Bob solo se hizo más fuerte. Pronto él le propuso matrimonio, y ellos, sin dudarlo, se casaron. La boda tuvo lugar en un lugar especialmente reservado. Hubo muchos invitados. Bob, ocupando un puesto alto, ganaba buen dinero y podía permitírselo. Todos felicitaron calurosamente a los recién casados, deseándoles felicidad. Cariño, regreso enseguida, dijo Dana a su esposo y salió bajo el pretexto de ir al baño de mujeres. Caminaba por un pasillo vacío, ya que todos los invitados estaban celebrando afuera, y en una esquina, un joven la interceptó. Troy, ¿qué haces aquí? Era el mismo joven con quien había estado antes de mudarse con Bob. Te extrañé. Quería verte. ¿Recuerdas de qué hablamos, verdad? La acorraló contra la pared. Por supuesto, no olvidé. Pero podrían verte aquí. Dana respiraba agitada, no quería que su celebración se arruinara de ninguna manera. Toma. Troy le entregó un pequeño papel con una dirección. Estoy alojado allí. Y estaré esperándote. No tardes mucho. Con esas palabras, dejó ir a su prometida y desapareció de la vista. Dana suspiró aliviada, luego miró a su alrededor para ver si alguien los había visto y siguió su camino. Un par de días después, Dana empacó y fue a visitar a un viejo amigo que se hospedaba en un pequeño hotel en una zona remota. Lo había conocido en su ciudad antes de conocer a Bob. Troy ya tenía antecedentes penales y también la involucró en sus negocios. Habían tenido una relación durante mucho tiempo y Dana se había encariñado bastante con él. Él la ayudaba y la apoyaba cuando ella dejó a su madre y padrastro, quienes la maltrataban. En agradecimiento, Dana aceptó ayudar a Troy con algunos de sus asuntos. E incluso cuando tuvo la oportunidad de tener una vida lujosa, no se separó de su amante. A él no le importó que ella se casara. Ya habían discutido su futuro matrimonial de antemano, y su plan era conseguir el dinero de su adinerado esposo después del divorcio. ¿Él no sospecha nada?, preguntó Troy, tomando un sorbo de cerveza mientras estaban acostados en la cama después de un encuentro apasionado. No. Dana fumaba. Se ha enamorado como un niño. Solo tenemos que estar juntos todas las noches con él. Pero pronto se va de nuevo en un viaje de negocios. Al menos tendré un descanso de él. Eso es bueno. Iré a ver en qué tipo de departamento vives ahora. Tomó el cigarrillo de Dana y exhaló el humo. Vamos, no eres médico. Dana se levantó de la cama y comenzó a empacar. Bueno, fue agradable verte. Pero es hora de irme. Te llamaré. Así pasaron los meses. Bob salía de vez en cuando en viajes de negocios. Dana consiguió un trabajo en un salón de belleza. Estaba aburrida de quedarse en casa y encontró una utilidad para sus talentos. De vez en cuando se encontraba con Troy y discutían el proceso de llevar a cabo su plan junto con sus juegos de amor. A veces él iba a su casa cuando Bob estaba fuera. Y aquí es muy agradable. Tienes un buen lugar aquí. Apreció la espaciosa casa cuando visitó a Dana una vez más. Sí, no lo creerías. Al principio fue muy desconocido. Pero ahora me siento muy cómoda. Sí. Uno se acostumbra a ser rico. Pero no olvides quién cuidó de ti cuando no tenías dónde ir. Se acercó a la chica y la tomó suavemente del cuello, demostrando así su superioridad sobre ella. Oh, no. ¿Cómo puedes pensar eso? Ella le sonrió. No retrases el divorcio. Aunque, sabes, se me ocurrió, la miró enigmáticamente. Y la viuda lo obtiene todo. Eso es mejor que la mitad. ¿Qué piensas, cariño? La atrajo hacia él y besó la comisura de su boca. Dana, por supuesto, no quería que las cosas llegaran a eso. No quería ensuciarse las manos con sangre. Ni siquiera bajo la tentación de obtener toda la herencia de su esposo. No sé, Troy. Ese no era nuestro acuerdo. Tendremos que esperar un poco más. Lo resolveremos. Había una nota de ansiedad en la voz de la chica. Troy estuvo de acuerdo con su plan original. Prometió esperar un poco más. Pero se quedó con la palabra de Dana de no retrasarse. Por su parte, no quería compartir a su amada con otro hombre. Unos meses después, Dana decidió dar el primer paso. Rebuscó en la maleta de su esposo, quien acababa de regresar, y dejó una marca de lápiz labial en una de sus camisas que había comprado especialmente para este caso. Al día siguiente, con apariencia de esposa atenta, comenzó a recoger la ropa sucia para lavarla. Y cuando llegó a las camisas de Bob, Dana miró desafiante la mancha de lápiz labial frente a su esposo, como si nunca la hubiera visto antes. Bob, ¿qué es esto? Le entregó una camisa. No lo sé. La miró detenidamente. Tal vez lo dejaste cuando me conociste. Siguió leyendo la revista. No, Bob, llevabas otra camisa. Saqué esa de mi maleta. Y yo no uso ese lápiz labial. No sé qué es. ¿Acaso me estás acusando de algo? Bob tiró la revista. ¿Qué te ha pasado? Dímelo tú. ¿Conociste a alguien más en tus viajes de negocios otra vez? Así fue como nos conocimos. Y ahora has encontrado a alguien mejor. Dana estaba llevando a cabo un escándalo premeditado. Eso es ridículo. ¿Cómo puedes pensar algo así? Pero Dana no cedió, y la noche terminó con un escándalo, Bob yéndose a dormir en otra habitación. Tenía que salir nuevamente en la mañana y quería descansar bien. Pero las sospechas de su esposa lo mantuvieron despierto y se revolcó en la cama. Por la mañana, mientras se preparaba, Dana continuó su papel de esposa celosa y esta vez Bob se fue de mal humor. Pasaron un par de meses. Dana no dejó de preparar pruebas de adulterio y de acosar a su esposo con su celosía, y después de un tiempo comenzó a exigir el divorcio. Pero él no estuvo de acuerdo. Amaba mucho a su esposa y lo atribuía a su excesiva celosía y a sentirse sola cuando él no estaba cerca. Le propuso llevarla de vacaciones juntos, pero ella no aceptó. Bob incluso sugirió que hablara con un especialista porque no entendía el comportamiento de su esposa. Pero realmente quería recuperar su antigua relación. Mientras tanto, Troy estaba cansado de esperar a que la situación se resolviera por sí sola. Decidió actuar según su plan. Así que una noche se vistió con ropa oscura, tomó un arma y fue a la casa de Dana y Bob. No tuvo problemas para entrar, ya que Dana le había dado el código de alarma hace mucho tiempo y después de muchas visitas, conocía bien la casa, incluso de noche. Bob no dormía bien esa noche. Se revolcó por un tiempo y luego decidió bajar a tomar algo. Mientras bajaba las escaleras, escuchó ruidos en la cocina. Se puso alerta y, sin encender la luz de abajo, fue cautelosamente hacia el ruido. Se dio cuenta de que había alguien en la casa, por lo que asumió que era un ladrón. En su camino hacia la cocina, encontró un bate en la esquina del pasillo, con el que se armó. Pero no bien entró a la cocina, fue emboscado. Bob no era débil de nacimiento y en su momento había practicado boxeo. Luchó con el intruso durante un rato, usando sus habilidades. Troy logró sacar su arma. Bob vio el destello de metal a la luz de la calle y logró agarrar la mano del asaltante. Ahora luchaban por el arma. Durante la lucha, el arma se disparó. Dana corrió hacia el ruido. Encendió la luz y vio una terrible escena. Bob estaba parado con un arma en sus manos, un hombre herido con una pasamontañas negro estaba tendido en el suelo. Bob se inclinó y le quitó la máscara. Dana gritó al ver que era Troy. Estaba sangrando, la herida en su costado. La chica corrió hacia él. ¿Qué has hecho?, gritó Dana a Bob. Él estaba confundido ahora, viendo a su esposa llorando por el ladrón herido. ¿Por qué te quedas parado ahí? Llama a una ambulancia. ¿Lo conoces? ¿Quién es él? Dana estaba tan abrumada por el dolor que lo único que quería ahora era que Troy viviera. Prometió contar todo si Bob llamaba a una ambulancia. No quería perder a su amante. Una hora después, la ambulancia se llevó a Troy y la policía terminó de entrevistar a los residentes sobre lo sucedido. Bob se quedó solo con su esposa. Dana, al principio llorando por su dolor, incluso quería ir al hospital con el hombre herido, pero Bob no la dejó ir. Tuvo que confesar todo, como habían planeado primero quedarse con el dinero de Bob y luego cómo había preparado todo. Pero juró que no quería que eso llegara al asesinato. No quería que nadie muriera. Y ahora culpaba a su esposo por lo sucedido. Si me hubieras dado el divorcio, esto no habría sucedido. Seguía sollozando. Fue tu culpa. Ahora él podría morir. Bob se daba cada vez más cuenta de lo ciego que había estado con cada palabra que decía, y el dolor de la decepción comenzaba a apretarle más y más. Comenzaba a llenarse de ira y disgusto por esta mujer. No podía creer que hubiera caído de esa manera. ¿Has estado mintiendo todo este tiempo?, preguntó con frustración en su voz. ¿Cómo pudiste? Te amaba. ¿Qué te faltaba? Te di todo. No lo entiendes. No podía dejar a Troy. Le debía tanto. Se cubrió la cara con las manos. Bob se acercó a ella y le agarró la mano, tan fuerte que Dana gritó. ¿Qué estás haciendo? Me estás lastimando. Suéltame. Claro, Bob la sacó del sofá en el que estaba sentada y la arrastró detrás de él. La chica intentó escapar, pero no funcionó, su esposo solo le apretaba la mano con más fuerza. Escribe. La sentó en la mesa y le pasó un papel. ¿Qué? Dana lo miró con el rostro lleno de lágrimas. Escribe todo. Todo lo que acabas de decirme. Esta será tu confesión. Una confesión de fraude, un intento contra mi vida. Con esta carta renunciarás a todo lo que te he dado. No te perdonaré por lo que has hecho. Dana todavía resistía. Entonces Bob le dio una bofetada en la cara. Escribe, perra. Escribe, te digo. Ya mostraba tanta ira que Dana se asustó y empezó a poner su confesión por escrito. Pronto Bob dio por terminada la carta y Dana fue encarcelada por fraude y complicidad en un intento de asesinato. Troy sobrevivió después de ser herido y también fue condenado por las mismas razones. Bob solicitó el divorcio y dejó a Dana sin nada. Se llevó todo lo que le había dado durante su matrimonio y nunca la visitó en prisión. Gracias por haber escuchado la historia hasta el final. Apóyenos con su suscripción y me gusta. Nos esforzamos para ustedes.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. "I will do my best." Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. "Did you not hear what I said?" "I'm sorry." I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look, "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day." Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. "So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick? What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.